Colts fans need to embrace Daniel Jones with everything they have in them, despite what their emotions tell them, despite the visceral reaction that they naturally, by the way, should have to what is transpiring here with the quarterback situation. Because we, of course, as fans, I'll say it again, we've suffered when it comes to this. I'm losing my voice over it. We've suffered when it comes to the quarterback situation. But keep in mind, sure, we've suffered, but many people, some would call them superstitious, some would call them conspiracy theorists, but many people would say we've suffered because the quarterback position of the Colts is cursed. Cursed, I say. Gasp from the crowd. I can't believe he actually said it. We've all been thinking it, but someone's going to say it. You're damn right I'm going to say it, okay? And people would make that case because of two things, okay? One, we cut Peyton Manning after that neck injury. By the way, he goes on to throw 55 touchdowns to the Denver Broncos, okay? Breaks a single season record and still to this day associates himself more with the Denver Broncos than he does with the Indianapolis Colts, despite the fact that the majority of his illustrious Hall of Fame, first ballot, may I add, career was with our organization. That's how bad we did him dirty when we cut him that time and gave up on him. That's how much that stung to Peyton Manning, who had given us everything, okay? And then two, you can argue that the curse was already playing out with all the injuries of Andrew Luck and then finally his retirement in week 4 of the preseason game. And perhaps that would have been it. Perhaps the football gods would have stopped right then and there and said, you know what? Enough. You guys have paid your debts for what you did to Peyton Manning. But instead, the fans decided to boo Andrew Luck off the field. And quite frankly, things have not been the same since. Okay? That's what the Indianapolis Colts are doing right now. And all I'm saying is that if you are a fan of this team, you cannot do the same thing to Daniel Jones. Not now, okay? Because you have to understand, part of what went wrong for Daniel Jones in New York, sure, you could talk about the play, okay? Sure, you could talk about the actual lack of productivity on the field. But if you're to talk about it in a bit more depth, the reality of the situation is that Daniel Jones got absolutely chewed up and spit out by the New York market, like happens to many young quarterbacks, many of which who have left New York and been successful, albeit guys that were on the Jets and Sam Darnold and Geno Smith. And I understand those guys aren't Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. You get my point, though. They were obviously much better than they were with the Jets after the fact. Okay. And the reason I bring it up is because whether it's the Jets or the Giants, being from New York as a Colts fan, nonetheless, I'm around here. I understand the culture of this city. I understand how the media treats the players. That New York market is so unforgiving, particularly to a quarterback, particularly to someone who they're invested in like that, that if you go through a struggle as a young quarterback, they will absolutely bury you. And the media coverage of the Giants and Daniel Jones were absolutely a massive, massive part. You could argue the primary factor based off of kind of the history of these teams and what they do in New York. The primary factor in the downfall of Daniel Jones, the way the media, the quarterback, it's such a mental battle to begin with, okay? And confidence is so necessary to play that position at a high level. And when you feel like you're walking on eggshells from an execution standpoint, which is where Daniel Jones got to with the Giants at some point between kind of the flip-flopping of the organization, obviously the way the fans turned on him, the whole deal. Your psyche, your confidence, and ultimately due to that, your willingness to let it rip and make a couple of mistakes because it's okay if you do, that freedom, right, in your decision making, in your intention when you're out there can make all the difference for a quarterback. And you can argue, right, that Daniel Jones was really almost, I mean, the damage was just done bad in New York, right? And now he has an opportunity. What Daniel Jones needs is confidence. That's my point. And he needs support from a fan base for once. Okay. This guy comes out here, he does something good, he wins the starting job, and it's like immediately PTSD to the way the New York fans treated him. As Colts fans, we got to be better than that. Like, we can't do that to this guy. We want to put him in the best position possible to succeed. We want this team to be good. Because what I can tell you is this: Daniel Jones, any case that you can make that the Colts have not given Anthony Richardson the best chance to succeed due to X, Y, and Z, Daniel Jones, you can make that case for the way the Giants handled him. A, B, C, D, all the way through Z, right? Like you can make that case tenfold because they gave him Saquon Barkley and no one else. No offensive line to speak of, particularly from a pass catching perspective. Darius Slayton was the best receiver he had for the fine majority of his time with the New York Giants. Okay. By the time Malik Neighbors had come around in year 6, the damage had already been done. I mean, the fan base had already decimated him. They'd beaten him down. It was what it was. Okay. And you could call him soft for that if you want. But I find the reality is that not many people could survive that situation, particularly as a young quarterback, right? So now Daniel Jones comes into the Indianapolis Colts with a supporting cast in which he's never had. You look at the offensive line, you know the Colts offensive line is going to be above average, if not better than that. Of course, you have Jonathan Taylor, you draft Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell, Alec Pierce. I mean, Daniel Jones, that's 7 guys I just listed off. That's 6 more weapons than he's ever had, if you're going to be 100% honest with you. And you kind of couple that with a guy in Shane Steichen, who ultimately, up to this point, has made every offense work outside of the offense with Anthony Richardson, if we're to be fair, including with Gardner Minshew. It's not like his time with the Colts has been just trash. Okay, getting 9-8 out of Gardner Minshew, that was a big deal for Shane Steichen. Crazier things have happened in the NFL than Daniel Jones coming to the Indianapolis Colts and kind of getting things back together.